So, episode 3.
Episode 3
is...
Hold on, I've got to sort my headphones out.
Episode 3, Scott Silvey. It was meant to be. Episode 3, Scott Silvey. So, Scott Silvey, so he was going to be our first Black Pencil winner of the series, but...
he's our second Black Pencil winner of the series.
One. So, sorry, Scott, you've been usurped by Shelley Smoler. But Scott, I don't know, he's our first designer, right? Typographer. We talked about this, didn't we? He's like getting people like that on. It's not just about creatives, is it, Billboard?
No, exactly. It's about the entire process, isn't it? And I think what's exciting is we're going to hear a slightly different take on some of the campaigns that we've previously talked about on the show as well.
Yeah.
You know, seeing it from a different department in the agency and
Yeah.
hearing some of those stories is going to be great.
Yeah, no, and I think he's been involved in some amazing bits of work. So you're right. It'd be interesting to hear what he says about, say, 18 to 30, which we talked to Ant and Mike about on a previous episode, or like his more recent stuff for Hopeline 19.
And we've talked about Calm Project before.
Yeah.
We're going to hear about that today, I'm sure.
Yeah, because I know he's sort of much more involved in things like originating logos for billboards and things like that. So I think, he's going to be great. It'd be fascinating to see him. I haven't seen him for absolutely ages.
You've worked with him, right?
Yeah, I worked with him at Saatchi's under Droga, and then I sort of follow. You follow people around, and I didn't realise he was back at with Ant and Mike.
Yeah,
they seem to be together forever, and do some brilliant work. So no, I'm really looking forward to seeing Scott and what he's going to wear, because he's meant to be.
So I'm expecting him to turn up. It's awards night tonight, so he'll be wearing a 3-piece.
Yeah, and a spinning bow tie.
Spinning bow tie.
Right. Well,
maybe nothing but a spinning bow tie. Let's see.
On that bombshell, I'll go and get.
I'll go and get. Having a coffee downstairs. You can go and grab it.
Holding a cup and a spinning bow tie. Okay. Scott Silvey, welcome to Behind the Billboard.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming in, mate. So before we get going, we need to tell our listeners what Scott's wearing today.
He said that you were going to come in like full.
I was because campaign tonight, but obviously I'll come in my civvies. I thought it was a bit more comfortable.
And you managed to leave your suit at the office to go and get
Suits in the office, yeah, and it just about fits.
I was going to tell a big lie. I was going to say like he's looking resplendent, like nice dicky bow.
Right, shall we just edit out that first bit so you can tell a lie?
It's fine. But yeah, well,
you're lying in advertising.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not allowed to lie in advertising.
Lying on podcasts about advertising. Well, good luck tonight.
Thank you.
At the big awards. So
you've got stuff up there, haven't you? For
yeah. I think
the Hopeline stuff.
Hopeline, the Calm last photo, and there's some work for Great Orme Street as well that's up. And I think we've got other stuff, but they're just the bits that I've worked on.
You're going to be a busy boy.
Well, yeah, it's a suit and trainers. Just the amount of times I'll be going up and down. I joke.
I always think it's the when you get the old table plan, and if you're sort of relatively close to the stage,
keep the show going, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
But if you buy the toilets, it's like
no hope.
Buy the toilets, you may as well spend the night in the toilets.
Yeah.
But we both want to say about Hopeline 19. Sorry, my phone's going. Amazing campaign. Won a Black Pencil.
Yeah.
Which on its own is fucking amazing. But then it led D&AD to rank you as number 5 in the Global Designer Director League table.
Yeah, I know.
Congrats
Amazing
on that, mate.
Thank you.
That is pretty cool.
And also we had Shelley on last week, and we were talking about, which we'll do with you in a minute, the kind of the state of the industry right now, and how great work is being elevated and being rewarded. We asked her what her favourite thing is that she's been seeing out there recently, and she said the last photo was her favourite thing out there.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah.
Well, that's high praise.
Yeah.
Kudos.
We should actually have Scott's elevated on the sofa above us.
I'll put cushions down.
Yeah.
I'll massage your feet.
Are you, so you must be feeling quite confident about tonight. It's such a great campaign, the Hopeline.
Yeah. I think off the back of, D&AD and just like the way the response, not just from our peers, but just the way that the coverage it's got and how it's helped, I think is the main thing, because I think like the Frontline Hopeline 19 campaign, I think it was down as one of the top 5 charities now for the government in that respect for like healthcare. And then Calm obviously is, it's a massive massive problem that this country has got. I think especially with COVID and everything else. I mean, it was a big problem beforehand.
Yeah,
especially in guys. I mean, I think when we were doing
what guys' hospital?
No, just in
certain guys as in
gentlemen.
fellas.
Yeah, gentlemen. I think it was at the time when we did Project 84. It was 84 men a week from the age of 18 to 50 that were committing suicide in this country.
It's horrible.
It's just, tragic.
Yeah, really
and
is.
So anything like that is, I just always it's that bit more passion you kind of put in it than just trying to sell something.
Well, it's a human feeling, isn't it? You can really relate to it.
Yeah,
more than maybe a yogurt.
Exactly. Yeah, you feel good factor.
We'll come back to those in a minute, but because
Hopeline won a Black Pencil.
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a team effort.
Yeah.
Like the guys, Rick and Daz, who come up with the TV spot. Like that was, a real tearjerker.
Yeah, no, it's
shocking.
Every bit of it, all the work, particularly, your department, it's great. It's one of those things you look at and you just the cause, but then the way you've done it.
Yeah.
But just wanted to ask generally, how is life at Adam and Eve at the moment? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's. I've been there like 7 years now.
Really?
Yeah. So it's a long time in advertising for one place.
Say. Yeah.
But no, I mean it's great. There's it's a great department. Like both within like the King Henry kind of Adam and Eve design department,
right,
and like the creative department in general.
Yeah.
That there's some great clients, great work. Like everyone's really passionate about getting the best work out.
You're the head of the design.
I'm one of the design directors there. We've got there's a couple of guys like Paul Knowles as well that and so we've got a like a big team now. There's I think there's 10 or 12 designers.
Really?
That's brilliant. But I mean it's with the client base is huge. So
is there any I know, like you do lots of little things on the side. Are any Scott Silvey side hustles, like any Charlton Athletic redesigning kit?
No, not at the moment. No. So I was asked to do that stuff for CFC Media.
That's great.
And so that's kind of ongoing.
We need to say that Scott is a huge Charlton Athletic fan.
I know, for my sins. Yeah.
Do you get down there much anymore?
Do you know what? I haven't this season. But
it's difficult with a 1-year-old as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But tortured soul being a Charlton fan.
Oh, I love the Valley.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's good fun. It's a family club. It's just So I've tried to take my daughter once, and I think she liked the mascots, the chips, and then at half time she was like, "Can we go home now?"
Can I have a bag of sweets?
Yeah, exactly. You've got to stomach another half of this. So have I. I think we lost 1-0, and then to travel back to. Across London, but
Then it rained.
Exactly.
It's the perfect storm, isn't it?
Yeah. So I asked her when we got back. I said, "Oh, would you like to go again or try something else?"
Yeah,
before I could finish something else, she was like, "Something else."
You're not going to come to the club shop with me?
No, no interest whatsoever.
I think that's wise, though.
Yeah.
You don't want to sort of ruin people's lives.
Yeah, I've ruined all of my kids' lives being Spurs fans. They're done.
Yeah.
Well, I've got one
Spurs in England, brilliant.
I've got one daughter as a Man United fan who thinks United have never won anything because we're shit now.
Yeah.
But then my wife is a Man City fan.
Does she get the other one now?
Well, the other one doesn't. It's brilliant. My other daughter Dorothy shows literally no interest. And actually, if there's a United or an England game on, she says, "Who are the ones in white?" I mean, it's that. It's that crap, which I kind of admire.
I kind of envy that sometimes as well.
There's no
being a Spurs fan, you get
well, I've got a few years to wait until my son's old enough to be taken and tortured at the Valley as well.
That's it. We'll wait for double season ticket time.
Exactly. That'd be good. An excuse to get out of the house.
Right. Well, we're gonna talk about the work in a minute, but we want to talk to you a little bit about the billboard at the end of your street.
Yes.
Now, here it is.
Do you know what? I haven't seen this yet.
Sorry, Dan.
You hid it from me.
It's a bit of a winner.
It's actually not bad compared to some of them. Who's the client?
Bad in comparison to some.
Yeah, I mean, Candy Crush.
Okay.
I suppose brand awareness is all I can probably say about it. I think I I've got this thing. I think, when we kind of talk about other work and like my favourite campaigns and stuff, it just feels lazy.
Yeah. It's not actually a street. It looks like a railway station.
It's a cross track. It's the one at my station. And you think there's with so much scope to do something that you can kind of engage with. You've got a logo and the back of some phones.
And also Candy Crush is like a really massive client, isn't it? Like
I know. And that's the thing. It feels a bit, I think it's maybe it's just the target market and, with social as well, that it feels a bit throwaway.
Yeah.
Like a bit instant. And then it's like, not even
We should actually, to give it its due, shall we try and describe it? On the left-hand side is what?
Yeah, it's, I suppose, a 48 sheet divided in two. One side's got a Dirty Great Candy Crush logo on it, and then the other side has got multiple backs of phones that I suppose, I'm not a big Candy Crush fan, but yeah.
There's no actual headline. There's a
No.
There's a
What is it underneath the logo?
10 years of fun.
10 years fun.
Okay, so it's the celebration of 10 years of Candy Crush.
But
the logo is...
Yeah,
it's in gold and it's got a heart. I mean, it's not 10 years of fun advertising.
No.
It's
I suppose it's doing a job, but it just feels a bit like, I don't know, bland. I think for, as you say, like something as big, it's a big famous game now. And you think you could have done something else with it.
More active users than on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't,
Incredible stat.
Exactly. So, and you think, I suppose with all the big, kind of brands now, like that could have been, if Apple did that or Nike, you could still just have the logo, but just do something really crazy with it.
Yeah.
And just go, oh yeah, it's Candy Crush, 10 years. Yeah. But yeah, it just feels a bit of a missed opportunity, especially for like where it is as well, where you could, I don't know, you've got a bit of dwell time on that. And I mean, obviously you don't need it. I mean, it could have been better probably spent there is some D6s, like digital display stuff that
Just
you'd have
nice
thought.
Animations.
You'd have thought it's better on there rather than
it's perverse because it's a very modern product and a very old.
Yeah, I know. And it just feels like it's, I don't know, I think they missed a trick, but we're talking about it. So they haven't. Yeah.
We forced you to talk.
Yeah.
And the reason we get people to do this because it kickstarts our conversation about what we're seeing in the industry, what we're seeing out there at the moment, what excites you, what's not exciting you. And with your design head on, what are you and thinking about outdoor? What is the stuff that's exciting you at the moment, and what is the stuff that's making you close your eyes and look the other way? And
I would say the majority of it is making me close my eyes. I think there's not. I think that's probably a little bit strong. You see a lot of, especially like tube cards and things like that just don't look like they've had any time or effort put into them. I mean, I think like people, like other designers might shoot me down, but it feels like kerning and like just basic
Lost
typesetting is a lost art.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of stuff you see out there with like, AWOL full points and, just letters that aren't looked at correctly. And you just think, come on. It's only like another, it's a part of your job.
Yeah.
But then, something that, then you see something that's either brave and you think, wow, it could be, like the Muller stuff, for instance.
the Muller Corner stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people saying it could be braver if they didn't have the logo because that's kind of the yogurt and the corner, but
that was a client decision.
Yeah, but
we featured it on our Instagram feed. It was something we got a hold of the team, we interviewed them.
Yeah.
Do you know the thing I loved about it the most is the spot varnish on the corner.
Yeah.
On the fruit.
They made
just
point
a nice design touch.
Yeah.
So,
but it's funny because we were just talking earlier. When you've got something good in the modern world, it really stands out, not just because it's good, but then people start to share it.
Yeah.
On social.
Yeah.
Where in the old days, I suppose, Dan and I keep saying in the old days, you'd probably have to see it in person quite often to see a poster.
Or you see it in the annuals at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And
but now you have these social platforms, someone goes, oh, that's nice, take a photo, and then you share.
Yeah.
And I think, that's got to be, oh God, I mean, I'm not a mad fan on has it got to work on Instagram? But you kind of sort of got to go, well, is it good enough for someone to look at it and go, fuck, that's good, I'm going to take a photo of it? Whether it goes on Instagram or you send it to your mate or whatever.
Yeah.
That should be.
Well, that's it. I think that's half. When clients are kind of slightly hesitant, you go, well, you might have that as a media spend, but then it's going to escalate out of all proportion when if it's good, because it's going to be on everywhere. You see it all the time, like all these other people pick it up, like the drum and campaign and creative review and
I was going to say about you mentioned about tube car panels. They've long been a kind of the butt of the industry joke because they're one of the cheapest outdoor mediums to buy, and it's got a great audience, and there's no reason it shouldn't be invested in from a design perspective. But because it's a cheap media format, you tend to find some of those kind of direct to consumer brands are going on there, some of the pharmaceutical brands and the kind of healthcare products, joint care, all that kind of stuff. But because it's a cheaper media format, I think someone somewhere is looking at, this is what your media spend is. So you know what? You get 10% of the media spend to spend on the creative. So it ends up, being rushed, not being thought about, or, not going to the lead agency on it. It's like, it's kind of almost, some of those formats become below the line advertising, even though it's an above the line format. It's a really strange, and maybe it's because of the vast number of sites and outdoor units that are available to people to buy. But there are some really underloved formats that could use a design eye or some simple thought from creative teams who are at the top of their game.
No, exactly. And then I think the big one that's kind of being publicised everywhere at the moment is the BA stuff.
Yeah.
And that's just so simple. I mean, very clever idea, but just as an art directional, but it's just everything has been worked out and it's been considered. I saw one today, and even though it's like, I wouldn't even class it as a headline, it's 3 lines of copy.
Yeah.
It's all beautifully kerned. It's just done immaculately. And you just go, that it's just not, everything about it is nice.
Yeah. And it seems to, when I first saw it, I was thinking, oh, brilliant. Is it really that simple? Because then I can really get involved in them. And Dan and I have talked a lot about this. We love this campaign. It's like the copywriting, just a matter of words, and you've got a story in your head. And you're thinking, how the fuck can they get it? So,
but from user insight as well, saying it's a checkbox that we always check when we're going through and booking flights. It is they've done a great job on the copy, as you said, 500 different creatives. I saw one the other day and I thought it was spot on. I was just getting off the train, and it said obviously business leisure because it's dark at 5 o'clock, and it was like, I was walking out of the station and it's dark outside, and I was like, contextually they've used it perfectly.
Have you seen the weather one where they actually art directed an old umbrella on the top, and it looks to all intents and purposes like the poster was really sort of destroyed a bit by the rain, but it's all been done.
I was going to say the ink's run.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, we've had Nils on, and this was way before BA, and you talk to him and he's just someone who's furiously passionate, not about just ideas, but craft. You know, and you look at it and you go, they're in their moment over there, and it's great to do it on BA.
On the back of the B&Q stuff that we talked about last year, and the pet stuff we've been looking at.
Yeah. Have you seen the pet stuff with the?
I mean, I think all of their work is just, there's like simplicity in it all, and I don't mean that in a derogatory sense at all, because it's just beautifully just simple. And that's it. It just works. You don't have to over-egg a lot of stuff.
I mean, obviously, we don't just talk about Uncommon, but they seem to be, I don't know, they seem to have a bit of a touch at the moment. Every agency has it, don't they? And
well, hopefully not tonight.
Exactly.
They'll be on the table next year.
Yeah,
you can throw things
exactly.
Should we talk about your first Billboard, Scott? I mean, imagine it was. Not too long ago, or a few moons.
It was quite some time ago now, and I think I was entrusted when I first started at Saatchi's way back in '97. I had one of the legends, Roger Kennedy, was my boss, who employed me to start with, and like, I think to start with, I had a bit of a light touch around like ads. You know,
Right.
I'd be thrown onto like the aerial stuff, and you know, like maybe the odd bank ad,
Right.
and then there was this MS campaign, and I think Roger was like up to his neck in. It was either the nursing stuff or like the army, or it was one of the big campaigns. And I think also at the time, like Mark Cakebread, who was also there, he was really busy, so it got entrusted to me.
Right.
And it was kind of like, oh, okay. So the butterflies start going, because this is like,
I was going to say, is
time.
it daunting working under those two?
yeah. I mean, you know, I remember one of the things that I've just kind of keep to this day is Roger, when you go into his corner office, and like if you took any work in to show him, and you say, "Are you happy with it?"
Right.
And if you didn't have conviction in what you've done,
You wouldn't.
he'd go, "Well, if you're not happy, Scott, why would I be happy?" And
Good line.
it's,
That's actually
you know,
good.
and it, you know,
Like
you've got to have conviction, I suppose, and just go, "Yeah, I've done this because X, Y, and Z." But otherwise, he just wouldn't engage. And it was a good, you know,
It's nice. If you're proud of your work, then I'm happy to look at it. If you're not, then why?
yeah,
You can
yeah. Why
smell
are
it,
you
yeah.
bothering? Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I think it was a billboard and it was an ad van. Like, remember the ad vans?
Love an ad van.
Yeah.
They're all
So
digitized now.
yeah, I know.
There's a company called Mobile Media Group, and I know the guy who runs it, and they're everywhere. They did some stuff with Led by Donkeys, and they're just kind of do
Right.
textual stuff. They're good. They're really good.
Yeah.
Good old.
But
format, that.
it was, and so yeah, the campaign was just that, you know, there's so many symptoms of, you know, multiple sclerosis, and it was just how, and I think it was one of those ones that there wasn't much of a brief from the creative. It was kind of like, right, here you go. And so I started doing this stuff, and it was, you know, I think as you can see, it's kind of an era, and it was, yeah. So all of the type, there was like layers and layers and layers and layers of like all the different, like, so it kind of makes sense out of the chaos. It's probably the overarching kind of design aesthetic. And I remember I did it, and Roger loved it, and then the creatives loved it, and it was just about to go out, and I think my studio manager at the time, or it might have been Tim Quest, rest his soul. They said, what fonts have you used? Have you got clearance? Like, because we can't.
right.
And honestly, I shit myself because there was so many. I was just pulling them in from everywhere, like DAF font, and you know, all those kind of places at the time. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And it was like, how can I unpick that?
Quite a lot of clearance.
Yeah, and I was like, oh no, and you know, so I felt sick because and they were just putting on my leg because you know, yeah. I mean, you know, most of it you can't even read. So I was just like, you know, the colour just drained out of me, and I was just like,
Well, they obviously saw you pouring over this thing. For weeks and designing
and then I was just like, it was literally about to go out. Like, I think the ad van was, you know, revving up outside, and you know,
Brilliant.
It was just time to go, and it was just like, oh my.
So we should just quickly explain what we're talking about. So it's a poster, and on the left-hand side there's like about 1,000 million different bits of type, all kind of entwined, and you can't make head or tail of it. And then just in it says, what is MS? And then coming out of all the chaotic type is a line, for clearer answers, phone. And there's the phone number. So it's beautifully simple and clear. It's like a classic poster.
Yeah.
And the question I was going to ask is, I thought a creative team had done it and gave it to you, but you actually did it yourself.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. That's fucking brilliant.
Yeah. So I think, you know, there's,
Were they quite open to that then? Going directly to design?
I think there's a lot of, especially now, the crossover with kind of like creative team, art director. I think, you know, there's, and designers, it feels like there's a much closer link than maybe there was years ago, you know, that, you know, you would, like way back when, you know, you'd get the ad and then you would typeset it, or, you know, or there would be a scamp.
Yeah.
And I think now there's a bit more freedom of expression over like how to create something in a 2D
I
world.
mean,
Like,
that actually would be a wicked digital poster as well.
yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. If such a thing existed back then.
So we're always interested. So, your first poster, did you go down and see it? Did you take a photo of yourself with it? Or
I didn't, sadly. No, I think I saw it. I didn't see the ad van, but I saw the poster up. I think it was on a cross track.
Right.
And it I did feel quite chuffed when I saw it, because I think I did used to keep, like, if I saw one of my ads in like a newspaper or something, even if it was for like a bank or something, and like
Cut it out.
I kept it. Like, I had like a bit of a scrapbook to start. I mean, it sounds really sad, but it's like,
No, but
I
that's-
think
that's-
at the
that's one of the
time
things.
it was like, it was just, oh yeah, I've done my first ad.
I think it's important, those things that that we spend so long working on stuff and putting all of that pride and passion into work. Of course, you should keep
Yeah.
a scrapbook. Of course,
And show the family, show your parents and stuff like that.
Oh God, this is slightly embarrassing, but I was at the airport the other day with family. I think it was for some holiday. And there's a thing in there, and only I will remember this, I don't know if you know, but in the airport, there's a thing called tensor barrier.
Right.
What it is, see, no response.
Tensor barrier.
What it is, it's crowd control thing. So, like you get a little a little stanchiony thing and you pull
Oh yeah,
the elastic thing, and it directs
like
people.
for crowd control and stuff.
Exactly
yeah?
right. So I
Queue
was
management
saying to the girls and Rachel, look, tensor barrier. And they're like, yeah. And I'm going, that's my first ever ad. So I was in this shitty little agency in a place called Charlotte Mews, and it was number 7.5 or 8.5.
So it's like Harry Potter.
Yeah, and I had to do a trade ad for these things in a supermarket. And fucking hell. And I actually got away, not a bad headline. And it never left me that it was just my first thing. And so whenever I see it now, there's a little kind of thing in my heart which no one else is interested in, as I can see here looking at both of your faces.
No, I'm smiling, but yeah.
Next time in your airport,
I remember that ad.
tensor barrier. Yeah, right. Let's move on to some great work. Scott, we're going to start with Hopeline 19. No surprises here. As we just mentioned, it's won the highest accolade in our industry, which is a D&AD black pencil, which is fucking insane. So well done to you and to everyone. That must have felt special. So we wanted to ask you three things. Tell us how the project came to be, your role in it, and how pissed you were when you won that pencil.
Right. So the project started over lockdown.
Right.
And I think it was probably the late summer of the first, so 2020, when the team, Rick Gayton and Darren Beresford,
Right.
they chatted to me and said, look, we've got this, like, we've been speaking to this charity, Frontline 19, and it's set up by these two ladies, and I can't think of, apologies, one of them is called Claire, and I cannot think of the other one's
Don't
name.
worry, we can put it on the link.
Yeah. And basically, they set up this charity because, like, all these, key workers, frontline workers were suffering from, the kind of the effects of PTSD, and just that they'd been moved departments, a lot of like NHS staff. So, we heard some absolute horror stories of, people that have done their bit to help, but they've gone from kind of where they were kind of trained in. There was, I think, there was people that, say were working in, I think one of them it was kind of like teenage pregnancies and, just kind of like a healthcare worker.
Yes.
And so she wanted to do her bit for, the COVID kind of response unit.
Yes.
And she ended up working in the hospitals holding like a tablet.
Right.
So people could have their last chat
Oh my God.
with their family members
Oh my
that
God.
were there because they weren't allowed in and they were going to pass away.
Shit.
And so we were on these calls and I'm just like, this is horrendous.
Yeah.
And so, like, the boys come up with this idea of Hopeline 19, and it's basically a phone line that members of the public could phone up and leave messages of support.
Right.
And then by the same token, like frontline workers could phone the number and like press a different button and then hear the messages of support. So just to kind of have, if they're feeling really down, that they could just, bit of a pep up and realise that how important a job they're doing.
Yes.
So initially it was, I think they'd got a script. So Rick and Daz got a script for a TV spot.
Yes.
And they said, right, we've got this idea, and like it was all done on a shoestring budget. And so it was like, right, we've got the script, we need a logo designing.
Yes.
So that was the first thing to kind of like, so it's Frontline, but it's Hopeline 19. So I was like, okay, so I'll design the logo. And then after that, they said, look, I think we've got like some coverage now. We can do some like press ads or like, and so what they wanted to do was 2 campaigns in theory, like the same as the phone line. Right. So there was like the public facing stuff to give everyone a bit of a kick up the arse, going, look, these guys need your help.
Workers, yeah.
And then the other side was kind of like the kind of response to that. So people could see like in the like staff, NHS staff canteens and stuff like that. So, you could not only phone in, but read the messages. So the boys said to me, look, we've got the script, but we're not sure how to like do it in a 2D kind of world. And so I come off the call and it was one of those ones you go, this has got to be good. Like I've got to try and like blow my own trumpet. It was kind of like this, I've got to really crack this because it's really important. A bit, we were saying before, it's not just all selling yogurts and it's
apologies to all yogurts, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ice creams.
Yeah, there you go.
So I come up with a couple of different approaches, and so what? This is the one, the posters that went out are the ones that we landed on, and it was just kind of because I think the initial run was some D6s,
right?
And we just I just wanted something. I mean, it could have been headline driven, it could have been whatever, but it was just to get something that was a little bit shocking. And, so that's kind of where the area of like that grotesque.
So can you, describe the visual for us?
Yeah. So it's basically like a frontline worker.
So it's a portrait of a
Yeah. And then kind of mixed in with that is a shot of like a patient. But what I was trying to do is to kind of juxtapose them. So they were off, and the kind of the nature of like the kind of the almost like pixeled, blockiness of it is to kind of have that scrambled nature of like PTSD and the kind of the trauma side, but also on first impression to just feel odd. So if you saw it, you would automatically double take because it was just the grotesque nature of the person.
They're really I find them really disturbing, but in a brilliantly disturbing way. Like you said, I want to know more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm going, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
And being a spotty ad man, I also was thinking, ooh, that's a bit Belford. It's a bit, lots of designers. I like lots of photographers. Rankin did a thing with Belford about where they fucked around with people's I was intrigued again about how you did it. That's why I really wanted to talk to you.
So,
and the two sides of the story being told on that same frame. As well for me,
because that was it. I mean, there was other kind of like, I suppose, like case studies when we were talking to the client that there was doctors that had spent days just ramming tubes into people to help them breathe, and then he was in a pub garden, like this one particular doctor, and he just saw a kid with a straw in a drink and he just broke into tears because it was just, that just, it just brought him back to like the kind of the traumatic days that he's been having, like weeks. And
it's the equivalent. It was the equivalent of wartime, right? There was for the doctors on the front, doctors and nurses on the front line, all the frontline workers who were seeing this stuff.
Yeah.
On the wards.
Exactly. And it's just horrendous. So, that was the aim. It was just to get something that's really impactful. And then because there was a little bit of copy, we wanted to kind of, tell the story a little bit more. So it was kind of like, what's the hero part of it? And it's the visual. Like, get the visual, then people will stop and read it.
The headline says 2 in 5 critical care workers are suffering from PTSD. It's our turn to be there for them, and then there's a phone number. I wanted, though, to ask you just back to the visual again. Sorry, I got myself caught up here on the microphone. Did you shoot the worker and the patient, or were you supplied with those images?
The initial poster that went out was a shot. There was a doctor that had taken a load of kind of reportage shots. And so we used one of the patients from that.
Right. And you got permission.
Yeah, we got permission, yeah. And then and the nurse shot was, I think, in fact, it was a supplied image. And then after that one, because we were going to use some more of the doctor's images, but then some of the patients and a couple of the doctors that he'd taken photos of, I think, for whatever reason, you can see, they probably had enough of COVID that they wanted to disassociate themselves with, just the whole ordeal. So then we shot like this, the one that you've got on your screen, that doctor, and so that one, the nurse with the green outfit.
Sorry, yes.
That was the initial one.
Okay.
And then the other two we shot like both, like the patient and the nurse.
They're amazing images. Was it a bit like a puzzle? I suppose at a point after which you go, that's just too disturbing. But then you might have gone, oh, that's just looking a little bit. Was there a sweet spot?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of trial and error with the shots, and what we were trying to do is like have them so it almost felt like one face, but then it jarred a little bit. So there was bits that lined up, and like the eyes were kind of just offset, or so, and the nose was a bit offset, or there was a mask just where the nose would be. So it wasn't way off, but it was enough to kind of go, yeah. And I think that was the thing. That was the hardest part.
And you said the first play out was on D6s.
Yeah, I think.
And were those animated then? But did they?
No. It was
great.
Yeah, I mean, I think if budget was, but as I say, it was all done on a shoestring. I think it was the first ones were the D6s above payphones, the BT.
Oh yeah.
And so they gave us some free media. So I mean, which is the best media because you could just phone from there.
Perfect.
But yeah, so that was that kind of side of the campaign. And then
so you're working with the creative team and you good self. Did you then, within Adam and Eve, because I don't know the structure of how it works, but do you then have to go and show Ant and Mike or Rick, or do you work as a little unit? How did it?
Yeah, so it was myself and Rick and Daz, and then when we kind of got to a place that we were like, I think we've got this now. Then like Ant and Mike were involved on this particular campaign, so they were the ECDs on it. So we kind of run it past them, and to be perfectly honest, they were happy with how it was.
Right.
There's a couple of tweaks, copy and bits and pieces, but like overall, it kind of stayed near as where it was from its kind of infancy.
Right. That's probably why it's so good, because it looks crafted, but not. You don't feel like you've had, without just being respectful, it hasn't been fucked around with. It looks very pure, like someone's vision, and it's just so simple.
Yeah, and I mean the client were really good as well. I mean, they understood what we were trying to do, and it was because they could have said, "Oh, we want our logo like massive," but they got the reason that why we'd done it the way we had, and then so the other part of the campaign.
I was going to say, so that's the first bit, and that's the public facing bit. Right?
Yeah.
So what's this second bit we're looking at now?
So those were kind of like the more upbeat side of the campaign, that basically when we started getting, I mean, the frontline, the Hopeline 19 phone line just went bananas, and they had such a response for it. It was terrific. I mean, there's obviously there's been case studies built around it, but I don't know the exact figures, but I know it was immense.
Great.
And so we started taking some of the actual calls and making them into posters.
Just transcribing what.
Just exactly. Verbatim.
Shall I just quickly read one here for our listeners? So it says, Daddy was really poorly last year and went to hospital, and the nice doctors and nurses made him better so that we could play football in the garden. He goes in goal and lets me shoot really hard, and I really like him. So thank you lots and lots and lots. So it's just a very, very sweet message. But then what you've done is you've broken it down and highlighted certain parts, haven't you?
Yeah, and I think it was basically like from what we were saying before about the actual phone line itself. It was just so there was a visual response to the phone line, and so these posters were going up in hospitals, in the staff canteens. So people on the frontline workers on a day-to-day basis could just see how much people were appreciating them. They didn't have to phone up the line, to kind of to get the response that they wanted. But it was, you could just read these posters. And I mean, we did 3. If budget would allow, we could have done hundreds, thousands of these things.
Probably make really nice radio spots as well.
Yeah, I think, there was so much. Yeah, I mean, we did some stuff like for PCP, like the masks and gloves. We printed the logo and just that kind of stuff, just to kind of keep it running. But yeah, I mean, we were just doing as much as we can to help in the kind of restrictions that we had, like budget wise. And
it's interesting what Dan was saying, about. It's so weird, isn't it? It felt like a war. It felt like something none of us had ever experienced, and now everything sort of feels relatively normal again, I suppose. You've got all the other shit in the world, like fucking Ukraine and all that.
Yeah.
Let's forget that for a minute.
25 prime ministers and mini budgets. And
but is it weird talking about it now? Because you obviously must have been really emotional just working on it, let alone being in it.
Do you know what? It was such an odd time, like I know for everyone. And I was doing this, this was all done from home. And I was working on this. There was a Great Ormond Street campaign I was doing at the same time, and I think it was John Lewis Christmas, all in like the August, and it was just bizarre. It was just it was just a very weird feeling that I used to come downstairs and just like cuddle my kids, and it's just because it was just oh my word, it was just and I think after this, I was like, right, I just need to do something a bit more like feel good, like whether it's, I don't know, selling like yogurt. Yeah, it could be in yogurt or ice cream. Have another baby. Yeah, but I was then, as soon as this one kind of finished, the next kind of brief was coming in, and that was calm.
Yeah.
So it was like, holy moly.
Like
but it was like, oh my God, it's like, this is.
Well, look, that you've virtually done our job for us. So that's the next campaign we wanted to talk about. So Calm, for those that don't know, this is a campaign against living miserably, and it's set up to deal with people's mental health, isn't it? And there's 3 projects we want to talk to you about here, which are all, like Hopeline 19, all really great pieces of work. All have won awards, but I think most importantly, probably all have played parts in saving lives or making lives better. And so the first one we're going to talk about is the most recent, actually, which Dan alluded to earlier, the last photo. Which is Calm and ITV, I should say. So this is, again, I just want to, don't sound like a stuck record, but it's photos that people took of themselves or with their loved ones, like a few days before they actually killed themselves. And so it's quite shocking, isn't it? And quite, and I mean, when I saw it, I really stopped, and it was, I imagine, like you say, another quite tough thing.
Yeah, and again, like coming off the back of the frontline stuff, and then onto this way, I was like, blimey. I mean, we were talking before. It's something that is dear to my heart because one of my friends committed suicide.
Oh, sorry, mate.
So it was something that I'm always passionate about, and you know, I want to be involved in these projects. But yeah, I mean, this one especially
Yes.
was probably the most harrowing, just because you see the people. I mean, you know, we'll talk about the other ones, but it was hard. It was really hard because it started, like, it was with the creative team was Andy Clough and Richard McGrann.
Yes.
And so they were saying, look, we've got this idea. We're going to do this exhibition, and hence the last photo. And, you know, so they spoke to me about it. And again, it started with the logo design, you know, for the exhibition, because they wanted to have something that was just almost like a photography exhibition on the South Bank. And there was no branding, no Calm branding. Right. It was just these people.
Yes.
And that logo.
And did you design that logo?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Lovely, mate. Really lovely.
So it was just to kind of make it feel a bit more authentic for just, you know, like the other pop-up kind of exhibitions that they have down there.
Yeah.
And then I think after one day or maybe 2 days of the exhibition being up, then there was like the reveal posters that went up with it, and then the press stuff come out. You
So
know,
whereabouts
posters.
was it? On the South Bank? What,
Yeah.
not outdoors?
And were the posters to look like they were advertising for?
No, it was basically, they were probably about 1.5 meters high, and there was just like 2 rows of these posters right by the river, and I think so basically that was the exhibition, and so you could just walk in. It's like, you know, very interactive. You could walk in between, and it was just pictures of people,
and you could scan the QR code and read the person's story.
Yeah,
but you didn't reveal what had happened, or you
that was like the second kind of stage, like within like the first couple of days of the exhibition being up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, honestly, we got such a great response from, you know, we obviously the charity reached out to like families, and there was, you know, we got a really good response of people that would come forward and give their photos to start with, and, you know, be part of this,
Really?
to be a face of this campaign, which is
quite brave.
and especially when like each one come with its own story.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was just, I mean, it's tragic.
Yeah.
And I remember going down to the exhibition on the first day that it was, you know, it kind of opened, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
And they invited all the families that day.
Right.
And like I was just walking around and just, to be perfectly honest, walking around to make sure it all looked okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably doing your job.
Yeah. And like there was, in the end, I just had to leave because there was, I remember there was one mum and son there holding hands, touching the picture of like their other son.
Right.
And it was like, oh my, and that wasn't just one of them. There was like, all these different families there. And it was just like, heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And
that story being out there and people witnessing this and talking about it, and the press and the PR, that goes to help this charity in doing what they do.
Yeah.
Maybe it stops someone else and it gives someone else someone to talk to. And
exactly.
It's so important for that mother and son to see that happen, because if that could make a difference to someone else's life, and someone else doesn't feel that there's kind of, it's a win for them.
I know. And it was, and for me, I mean, they're like art directionally, when it comes to like the press ads and the posters for it, it was just such a light touch. It was just like, we don't want to over egg these. It's about being respectful to the, to the families and to the dead.
So this is
really
very Tate.
Yeah, and that was the kind of it was trying to take like a press ad that could be like, as you say, in the Tate gallery. So it's, the little bit of copy that would be the descriptor. And then obviously we had to put the logo on, but it was just try and keep it so apart as much to kind of just go, this is the story. This is, you don't need any bells and whistles.
Yeah.
It's
It's
just
sort of like-
very,
It's not quite editorial, but it's getting there.
yeah. And it was, we just wanted to, I mean, there was one of the girls, I think it was, because a lot of the families were very forthcoming with their shots for the exhibition, but when it comes to like being out, I suppose a bit more of the public domain, like the posters and stuff, there was a few that were a bit more reticent, which you can well believe. But one of this girl here, I mean, you've got her 21st like shiny balloons, and it's just, if anything was like, the other ones, they're all horrible in the sense of like the story, but when you see, oh, she's young, it was her birthday, and then it's only a few days after that, it was,
a tough one.
yeah. And again, I was going back downstairs in my house, like cuddling my son, and just going, oh my god.
Yeah, so I mean, to work on such a thing, as a kind of, it's a bit of privilege, and I know, like you said, and you really like Hopeline, you want to do it and do the people justice.
Yeah.
I think you have. I mean, I think,
And you have a real responsibility to the families who have donated their photos, who they are donating their pain for the charity as well. So
That's
you've got
it. And it was a real, and it was a privilege to meet some of these families, like, because, I lost a friend, but it's one thing losing a friend rather than like your husband or your kid or
brother,
but I think it's becoming more and more common, isn't it? But it's better that people talk about it, for one. Look at us here, we're chatting about it now, but just it is more open, but it is still the awfulness about this campaign is you always hear those stories, don't you think, oh, everything was fine.
And you look at the last photo and you say, you don't see the pain behind the eyes.
And then I think, again, with the TV spot the boys put together, it's just so, it's harrowing.
Yeah.
Because when you get what it's all about, but you just look at these people and it's just like, without a care in the world.
Yeah. I mean, you hope we're heading into a better place, and that, like 10, 20 years ago, you'd barely even discuss things like this, let alone run an ad campaign and encourage people to ring and get in touch. So we're in a better world in that respect, but it's still, people have.
Well, I know we're about to move on to Project 84, and I think that was a big turning point for me, certainly from working in the ad industry and seeing this, and realizing that like it was attitudes were changing, and I think Calm were a huge part of that. And this campaign in particular, I think it's
I mean, this
a big turning point in our industry and for people who need to talk about mental health.
I mean, this was we did a campaign prior to this, but this one was, as you say, the biggie. Like, this one really put Calm on the map, put, I think, mental health on the map. Because like off the back of this campaign, it went into, it was discussed in Parliament, and then they had a Minister for Mental Health. And no small part to this in particular.
What was it? So it's called Project 84.
So some of our international listeners may not be aware of this, because it's a UK centric stat as well.
So this, I'm trying to think, this was pre-COVID, so it was probably 2019 we did this one. And so the stat at the time was 84 men between the age of 18 and 50, I believe, were committing suicide each week in this country.
Staggering, isn't it?
And it's a horrible stat. And so I think the awareness around that needed to be visible. It wasn't something that you could just kind of talk about. It needed to be, and I think that's where Anne and Mike come up with this stunt, like, to kind of showcase. And again, this was in collaboration with ITV, and because I think that's the old ITV building.
On the South Bank, just up the road.
So
I mean, what I find interesting about it, sorry, just is sometimes when you get a stat or a fact, like, you can't beat sometimes in advertising a good, stat fact, or sometimes you go, no, we still need a strategic line and blah, blah, blah. But in this case, what I like about it is, it's probably why we remember it, because you go, oh yeah, the 84 project 84, you go, what, oh, why? Oh, because that's how many guys. And you're going, fucking hell. That's sort of all you need to know.
We obviously it's the name of our podcast. We talk a lot about posters and billboards and traditional outdoor executions. There are so many amazing physical installations that are not posters, that are things that are, it's an idea or an activation or something immersive that are classed as out-of-home advertising or out-of-home executions. And this is probably one of the best examples out there. I remember a PlayStation thing on the Oxo Tower, those physical things that just something for people to experience and talk about and are press worthy. And this is right up there with the best of them. Yeah, so it's
and to Mike came on and they told us that I recall there's 84 mannequins, male mannequins, and they're all from real people's families, but they are much lower down. Do you remember? And they said, oh yeah, and they said, no, they got to be at the top. And it was one of those moments where, I don't know, a lesser creative team, a lesser agency would have gone, all right, yeah, we'll just have them on the scene. But it's not iconic or dramatic. And when he got them up there, I mean, that's some sort of stunt, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, it was the amount of people. I mean, when it kind of went live on ITV, I think they started their show that day from like outside with that in view. And just the amount of people that were just stopping. It was, and obviously I can't take credit for their idea, but my role was more the logo design, and then we
with the eye.
It's just again, it was just to kind of tell the story.
So that I'm interested.
So for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's obviously you'll see it on the feed where you get your podcasts, but the I from the word 80 has been jumped up to the top of the E, symbolising exactly what you're seeing on the ITV building.
And did you? Because I love the way you get involved in projects where it's a logo, whether it's to help art direction along or actually come up with your own idea. You're a kind of bit of a, an everyman in that respect. But on this, how did they come to Adam and Eve and go, right, we're calm, we've got this fact, over to you? And then did you say, right, I'll do the logo, Anna might working conceptually? How did
I think I wasn't privy to the initial stuff, and then it was basically Ant and Mike said to me, hello sir, we've got this idea, we need a logo for it. Right. So, and they told me the idea, and then that was it. Like, kind of just went away and come up with the logo, and then they said, "Oh, we need an illustration drawn as well." So I drew like an illustration of the same thing, and then that just went across.
I remember seeing the website was great as well. Just kept that sort of continuity going. Right, we have to move on a bit. Dan's just given me the visual signal to hurry up.
Okay.
So just want to
because I want to get to the last one.
Yeah, we want to get just to finish off on Calm. The very first one you alluded to was a letter at a bus stop. Oh, yeah. I can't read this. I don't know anything about it. Could you just?
So this was the first campaign that Adam and Eve did for Calm. And again, this was Ant and Mike, and it was I think we ended up with 3, but there was a few to start with, and they are actual suicide notes.
Right.
And they were given to us by families, and again, it was like another campaign that was all about that. Like the kind of the copy was secondary. It was that was the impactful bit. I mean, you can't read it at that size, but they were harrowing.
Really. They were all run on ad shells where there's dwell time.
There was and half-page press ads. Right. Again, it was another one. The budget was very small. Like we were begged to steal and borrow ad space from newspapers and stuff like that. But there was.
It's a pretty impactful way to start, isn't it?
Yeah,
and this is a real suicide letter. If you find it hard to read, imagine how hard it was to write, and then it.
Yeah, and then there was just a little bit of the story about the person.
Mm-hmm. But it's great. I mean, the whole campaign has so much dignity around it. I think it doesn't come across as sensationalist or anything. I think, all of you and everyone at Calm deserves a huge amount of credit. I mean, it's just an amazing and long may it be,
I hope so. Yeah, I really do. Because, it's not going away.
No.
As much as we're kind of trying to push it, it's not going away.
The way world's going, we need things like this.
Yeah.
And, I think well, obviously we've talked about it before, and we've talked about the idea, but I think that there's huge credit to you on the design for all three of those things, because
Thank you.
like going into those projects and giving it the dignity it deserves for the victims and for the families.
Yeah.
It's all brilliant. It's all really well designed, and I
Appreciate
think
that.
it's a credit to the idea, and it's a credit to the families who have donated their.
Yeah, because that takes a lot, doesn't it, to make people. It becomes more powerful and it's real.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
Like
Your
you said,
clients weren't your clients. Your clients ended up being the families who have given you their photos and their letters, and that's just that's a really hard thing to deal with.
Yeah.
right? We. There's no way we can.
The segue, come
do
on.
the segue to mustard. Obviously, we're going to talk briefly about Coleman's mustard. Now, I have to profess no knowledge of these, but they look great. They're a set of, there's 6 posters or 9. And they're all based around cricket and mustard and cricket. Tell us more.
Yeah. So basically, this campaign was. I'd come back from a holiday, and I come back into the agency, and the studio manager said, "Oh, we've got a little something to ease you in, welcome back."
Yeah.
And so the creative team, Nick and Tom, they'd written all these lines for. It was up on the test matches, I think. So they were all going to be
Adam and Eve, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Adam and Eve, yeah. And they said, "Oh yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to write all these lines. We're going to shoot the jar, and then whatever happens in the test match, we can just run these ads." And they were going to be strip ads, and then there was
So contextually based on what was
yeah. So to start with, I was like, it's a bit restrictive if we're going to shoot the jar, because there's only so many things kind of you can actually do with the jar.
Yeah.
So I said, look, I can draw it. I'll just illustrate it, and then we can do a bit more with it.
Great.
And they were like, "Oh, okay. If you're comfortable with doing that," I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." And then Coleman's has always run with Gill Sans is their font, and it was a bit like, I don't know if that's the best thing to be doing.
Right.
So we, with the illustration kind of swap over, I said, well, how about we kind of change the font as well, because it kind of just feel a little bit more still old English. It's kind of taking heritage from their logo.
Yeah.
And so they're like, yeah, okay. So anyway, this is how these were kind of born.
Yes.
And I didn't think any more of it. Though it was just the campaign went out, and then the account team come over and said, the client loves the illustration.
Right.
Can you draw a mint sauce? And so it was all, so it was kind of like cranberry sauce. And I was like, okay. So I started drawing all these
Scott Silvey,
jars up.
illustrator.
Well, yeah, exactly. If I'd known at the time, I'd probably charge some money for it.
Yeah.
But yes.
Outsource this to an illustrator I know.
Yeah, exactly.
He only works on the weekends.
Yeah. And so basically I started doing, and then they started doing a few other ads, and it was just pithy lines for mint sauce and bits and pieces. And then I was one of the account team pulled me aside and said, "Oh, can you come into this meeting?" I was like, "Yeah, okay." So I've sat down, and then there's these other guys, didn't know them from Adam, and they're from a packaging company,
Right.
and basically, off the back of all this stuff, Coleman's wanted to change all their packaging.
Oh my gosh.
Joking.
So all of their packaging at the time was very kind of, but probably based in the 70s kind of, they hadn't really changed it a lot. And so then this packaging company was, just kind of drilling me as to kind of the aesthetic. Really? And so there's everything now, all of their packs have changed. There's some that are still in this illustrative style,
right.
All the jars, and I think it's the dry mixes. And then all the ones the bolognese sauce and stuff are photographic, but they've got like flat color backgrounds, and it's all very pared back like this.
Right, I'm going to go in the supermarket and think,
Yeah, so if you have a look at all the jars like for seafood sauce and all that kind of stuff, but it was just like a really weird kind of like what's going on?
How things evolve in the business.
Yeah, and it was like from doing something on the back of a holiday and like, I can just knock up a...
I mean, they're great. They're great. Anyway, they're so well branded. I always think of that Paul Arden quote, at 100 foot, I should know what that brand is by the art direction.
Yeah.
These Scream Colemans, they're just,
Well, it's quite iconic as well, isn't it? The colours is...
Yeah, but you've done, I mean, God, that's quite something. Right.
Yeah.
We're going to go from mustard to a car, and we're going to do a brief chat about VW Troc. Is that what it's called?
T-Rock.
T-Rock, sorry, there you go. A man who doesn't drive a car.
Yeah.
Car guy. This.
Yeah.
Troc. T-Rock, right. So there's a goat in the TV ad, isn't it?
Yes.
And it starts to go places. I don't know much.
The commercial was like basically like it's just kind of a normal kind of car commercial, like this, SUV like driving around, and then the born confident bit comes from this little goat who kind of stands on the road like confronting the car, and like the car stops and the goat just the ram like toddles off.
Yeah.
So like the VW like international press shot that we were supposed to be using was this shot here.
Yeah.
And it was just a little bit dry.
Yeah.
So the creative team, again, Rick and Daz from Frontline, they were saying, well, look, can we just do something a bit more fun with it? And because he's confident, it's like, and it's a ram, can we just play with media?
Yeah.
So that's what we did. We had like billboards like smashing into, from one to another one. There was like press ads where it run across
Yes, I've saw
like
that.
copy and into another ad.
So the ice cream, that's one of your ice cream clients, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So you would have had them on board, right?
Yep. Yeah. So we had to go through like, who was like on board. There was, there was a few different ones. And then even when it was just the poster itself, like the hero car poster, we tried to play around. Yeah. Like
The special build.
with the ram on top.
I'll tell you what, you've done a great job there, because I can, of course, but it's sort of like some people have just gone, okay, yeah, let's just stick the car up. It looks nice. But because you've got this property, it sort of has made it way more famous, and sort of, I suppose, talked about, because I remember seeing these. I really like them. And in fact, I found them a bit more effective than the film, because they made their point a bit where you push the media. Right, okay. Dan, do you fancy going on 1830, mate?
We have to go back in time a bit to 1830.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Charlotte Street, Dave Droger, pregnant man,
Yep.
all of that, the Green Corridor.
Holy moly, yeah.
Right, so
Cast your mind back, is that what you have to-
I can't forget these.
we'll just have to say, because we're in 2022, this kind of work would not run today.
No.
In any way, shape or form. This was a different time and a different place. And that place was Charlotte Street. And you were working with Ant and Mike again.
Yeah.
Because we have talked about this ad
We have
before,
talked
obviously.
about
So we
this
want to
before.
talk specifically about your role in this ad.
So tell us your side of it. Because, by the way, readers, listeners, there's actually no type on this. Sort of logo.
No, exactly.
This is the myth of people going, oh, well, why is there a designer and typographer on it? Because you're involved in all aspects. So tell us your involvement.
So basically, like, Ant and Mike come back from their shoot, and they say, oh, we've got this great campaign. Because I've done, I had been working on other bits of Club 1830 previously.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, we've got these billboards. They're going to be great, like, blah, blah, blah. They sold me it. And then they said, right, okay, here you go. And these are the days where it was contact sheets. So for like probably the first couple of days, I was just scanning in all these different shots, cutting them out and I think myself and like kind of like probably bunkered down for 2 to 3 weeks,
Right.
like putting these together. Like I think, obviously everything had been set up and shot in a way, like they had a rough idea, but then, some of the shots didn't work or the angles were wrong. And, there was
So there's lots of
There was a lot of toing and throwing on these, and without getting too many trade secrets out, it was a long period. And I mean, and I'm talking a long time because we did it for a couple of weeks or so, and we had to note down like which shots were what, cut them all out, put it all together before it went to retouching.
Yeah, before it even started.
Yeah. So then they did it again. So so it was a really long, I mean, a fun process, and it's always good to spend time with like Ant and Mike anyway. Like, but it was a long-winded process to get these like out the door. I mean, really funny,
but a labour of love, right? So
yeah.
We're going to spend 2 weeks
just cutting
out,
looking at like,
having a laugh with it.
Hot people.
It's a fun project.
Yeah.
I remember, we won't re-go over it because they told us, but I do remember Ant and Mike saying they got there and they got all the people, and they said the night before, take it easy with shooting. Every one of them got pissed out their heads.
Yeah.
They said the next day it was carnage. And actually, I think
But Mike's in it, isn't he?
Yeah, there's a few Easter eggs in there, isn't there?
Yeah.
But I think, credit to you. And the photographer, I've forgotten his name.
Trevor Ray Hart.
Trevor Ray Hart. And I remember seeing it, and I was obviously furiously jealous, but admiring at the same time. And then hearing about the process and everything. And then I do recall, so I don't know if this is official or not, but I think at the time, right at the last minute, the client or something said, we don't really want to run them, or that you put all this work in. And then I think Drogo went, you're fucking running them, mate.
Yeah.
And they got them to run. And then, it went from nearly not happening to Grand Prix at Cannes.
Yeah.
Everything, D&AD pencil. So it
was massive.
quite, I can see actually just looking at you, the sort of tiredness again.
Yeah. I mean, it was, but, most campaigns are the ones.
I was going to say, you must, having talked to us about Hopeline and Last Photo, do you think a good designer needs to have that sort of patience and longevity?
Yes, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. Because you've been involved in some amazing campaigns, which we've said are huge amounts of craft, not a kind of bish bosh, and I think that really comes through in your work, just, you can just feel it. There's so much,
And are you self-critical? Are you your own worst critic?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's stuff all the time, like on my own website, and I take stuff off, like, you just think, all right, no, get rid of that now.
And is it a time based? Is it kind of, you look at it at the time, you go, I love that, and you look back.
Yeah, and then it'd be like, oh yeah, I could have done that like that. I could have done that better.
Yeah.
But I think that's hindsight, isn't it?
I think designers in particular are the worst at it.
Yeah.
Because, I think from an ideas perspective, it's like, obviously ideas evolve around popular culture and what you're seeing and what you're inspired by, and design even more so. So what is right now is not always what's going to be right in a week's time.
Yeah.
3 weeks time, 3 months time.
Exactly.
3 years time.
And I think,
so when you look back at your portfolio, you go, there are things that you look at and you go, I hate it. I know that is timeless.
Yeah, you try to keep abreast of kind of like popular culture and like everything, but I do try where I can to kind of have some design in a way that there is a bit of longevity around it. Like, so you can still go, actually they stand up. I mean, not so much because these ones are quite iconic, and it's photographic based, but like a lot of the other ones, it's kind of like I don't tend to use like really wacky fonts if I can help it, like unless it screams that it needs it, because you think, again, you look at it and 6 months down the line, you go, oh dear, that was the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think, funnily enough, the craft and the sort of energy you've put into the 18-30, although the material now wouldn't ever happen. If you take that away and just talk about it, it's incredible. Those shots look like they were shots, and that was the idea. Right. Last but not least, we're going to go NSPCC. Another Ant and Mike campaign.
It is. Yeah, this is going back.
I've called this push to the limit. I actually don't know what you called it.
Do Ant and Mike always come to you? Are you the go-to guy?
Yeah, I think we've got a lot of trust, but it goes both ways. Like obviously, this Ant and Mike, most of their stuff is going to be pretty good, and I think we've worked together for such a long time, like, you know, at different agencies.
Yeah.
That we've always worked quite well together.
Was this one of the first proper campaigns you did?
Yeah, I think it was. I think this was one of the first, like, I might be getting my history mixed up, but I think it was one of the first big ones that Ant and Mike
It was
did.
before 18 to 30.
I think so, yeah.
I think Adam and I had arrived at Saatchi's and we saw this, and it's amazing. It's sort of the shots are very stock shotty, like Tony Stone was the name of the day at the time, and it's beautiful, mum and a baby, and it's lovely sort of soft focus around it, and you think, oh, what could be nicer? And then you lean in and read the line, and it says, you know, by bedtime she wanted to shake him like a rag doll, which is pretty horrific.
Yeah.
And that was their power. Did they come to you with an idea fully formed, or did they say, can you go get us some imagery? How did that work? How did you get here?
I think this one, like, Ant had a rough idea of what he wanted, and we went out and got a load of kind of like nursing magazines and like kind of mother and baby and stuff like that. And it was kind of like, I think both of us after like an initial chat was like, how would mother care do this campaign?
That's a good idea.
And that was
It's like
kind
the
of
leaflets in a doctor's surgery.
Yeah.
That soft focus.
Because we kind of got to this, like these layouts pretty early on. And then the head of art at the time was like, no, you've got to, you know, try all these different things. And we kind of had to do it because, you know, this is way back when. And, you know, especially like Ant and Mike, they were quite a young team doing great work, but, you know, and it was like, so we had to kind of take the line
Dance
a little,
the dance.
yeah, dance the dance, and it was like I don't think it was right. Like all these other suggestions were coming in. It was like, oh, should on the shake the baby one, should all the type be like, you know, a bit more up, you know, like raggedy, and it was like, I don't think it should, and it was weird because both of us kind of were of the same belief, and it was like, you know, we could both be wrong, and you know, this happened many times in the past. But you kind of go, I think they're missing a trick otherwise.
You do that Roger Kennedy thing, and you go and go, are you happy with it? And this is what you're happy with.
Yeah, exactly.
Go with your gut, right?
Yeah, and that was it. And then, you know, it kind of went round the houses with them, danced the merry dance, and that come back to these.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and you know, they done really well. They were.
Yeah, they were amazing.
Yeah, it was a great, again, just a really simple campaign.
And we've got storybook in here as well.
Yeah.
Last one.
Yeah.
Art directional route from Richard and Ian.
That's right, yeah. So this is a while ago.
And so what was your involvement in this one, this storybook? Talk to us.
So it was kind of twofold. That we actually designed a book, like an actual book for like doctors' waiting rooms and stuff like that. I think it was called Sarah's Day Out.
Right.
And so we had the illustrations commissioned, and then I basically designed the book.
Really?
And then off that, it was like, well, we could do.
So the book came first.
I think so. Yeah.
That's really cool.
And then the campaign was like, right, okay, how can we do a campaign about the book? And
it's funny because you look at it and go, oh yeah, they've just used book art direction to do it.
Yeah.
To create the book.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
and I've still got a couple of copies of the book at home.
Well
It's
done.
like, so then it was like, right, well, let's just be true to it. And, you know, although we had to put the call to action and everything like that on there, but it was just like pages out of the book. And then we kind of, you know,
dog-eared it.
yeah, and
brilliant.
chewed them a little bit.
I remember at the time, you know, it was huge sort of kudos to yourself and the art directors, whether it was Richard or Ian, I can't remember, you know,
been
or the team, but you know, you set upon a topic or an area. I remember Frank Budgeon's cartoon film, which used cartoon children. This is like children's books. The previous one was sort of stock shot. It's once you got into that genre, it was brilliant because then you're subverting it. Yeah, and I think it did it so well.
The simplicity of the lines, that everything you can go childlike on it, and you can be.
Yeah.
You can talk to adults like they're children.
Yeah, it's that double take, isn't it? It's
one of the lines is, if smacking works, why do you have to keep on doing it? You know, and each one, unfortunately, hitting your children does teach them a lesson. So they're all written as well, aren't they, in the language of Anyway, I know time's running out. We wanted to finally ask you about your favourite billboard or billboards. It's a campaign, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Army.
I think there's a lot of nostalgia attached to these as well, because like when I joined Saatchi's, like way back in the 90s, it was like, they were doing all this terrific work for the Army, like Alex Taylor and Roger was like knocking these out the park, and there was Matt Ryan and John Pallant and Adam Keane, and then I think Nick Stasinski was involved in a lot of the Army stuff, and with Gav at the time. I just think going way back from the start of this with like the Candy Crush stuff, that it was just how considered these are. Not only that they're very well written, but just that could have been a full bleed shot of like the kid like taking the grain, but just the way that it's been shot from inside like a tent.
Reportage.
Yeah, just a reportage and just interesting crops.
Yeah.
It to me, it's just what like a good ad should be about. It's just...
The headline says 17-year-olds needed to work in fast food chain. And then it's a child carrying a sack of oats or some sort of food on his head, walking past, like you say, but shot from
inside the tent.
Yeah, because there was loads. It was like from inside a car. Yeah.
15,000 caretakers required, and shot from the inside of a car.
Yeah, I mean, there's just like
it was.
I just thought they were brilliant. Like at the time,
they stand up though.
I mean, you could run that now and it'd still be
I was about to say exactly, it's timeless. It's a timeless
We had
campaign.
Alex on the show. We did a lot of silk cut, a lot of Army. She was immense. Well, sir, thank you. God, that I feel quite emotional. It's quite a journey.
So the very, very last question is design tips for people looking at designing for outdoor, and what should they be thinking?
Yeah, do you have any rules you live by, or do you like little Scott Silvey mantras?
I think I would say like I don't have a style per se. I'd like to put my own take on it and try and have some kind of interesting way, or especially with like the logo designs that we've talked about, is to tell a story within them rather than just kind of being a logo.
Yeah,
I
can see.
I suppose try not to use the same font twice unless it's for a particular client. And just I think just craft. I think is the main one, and just spend a bit of time on what you're doing. I know, like especially in this day and age, the time is very much of the essence, and a lot of things get hurried through, and it's deliverables especially are a lot quicker now. But it's just take a bit of time over your stuff.
Make sure you're happy with it.
Make sure if you're happy.
I'd have to say that's a great thing. I'm going to remember to that. I love Roger, by the way. Roger, if you're listening, we
I think looking through your body of work and what you've chosen as your favourite ever billboard is that and what we've been talking about with some of the formats and mediums and the underloved formats is that your work is very considered. I think from a design perspective, obviously, is what you do, but if we look at all of that together, we look at the calm stuff, it's considerate. We look at the Hopeline stuff. It feels very, very, very on brand. And you've done what is an incredibly hard job, make look for us as kind of consumers very, very simple. So it's a real skill. So, well, thank you for coming in. I know you've
my pleasure.
Busy day. Good luck this evening, and with everything at Adam and Eve. Say hello to Ant and Mike for us.
I will do.
Hope you're on your feet a lot tonight.
Oh yes.
Fingers crossed.
Good.
Thanks.
Cheers, mate. To it. Thank you.
So that was lovely, wasn't it?
That was really nice.
Yeah.
It was actually quite emotional in the middle.
Oh God, don't! I know. I actually thought he was going to cry, or I was going to cry.
He was talking about his friend, and off air we've had another conversation about that, and it's obviously quite a I think. I mean, we talked about it last week as well. Your best work comes out when you're passionate about something. Shelley last week talked about the Zimbabwean ad, and it was a natural place for them, the four of them, to go on that project because it was so emotive, and what was happening on their own doorstep, just next door in South Africa.
Yes.
And today, talking to Scott about that and about, what has traditionally been in the advertising world something that is unspoken about, mental health issues, and not something that is really hits mainstream advertising.
No.
And it's great to have charities like Calm and big companies like ITV getting behind that message and making sure that message gets out there.
Yeah, no, it's feels like a certain sort of animal can handle those projects. Adam and Eve seem to do it incredibly well. Like, I don't know if we said in it, but like, with real integrity and humility, and like I think you touched upon the families of those people end up being your clients.
The responsibility you have to the families who are affected by this stuff, but also, like normally you'd be sending stuff off to the client for visual approval, and the families have much more right to be seeing something and being happy with it, and hearing the story of the mother and the son.
That was heartbreaking.
It's really difficult.
I mean, I think what he and all people involved in this project they've sort of not got in the way of things. They've just been, like he talks about the way he designs things. It's just enough. Yeah. And for that, we're thankful. Obviously, we did move on to, mustard and
that was great. I thought you were going to be I'm keen as mustard to move on to the next.
Ooh.
And I can't believe you didn't go there. I was staring at you.
But now you've put it out there. It's yours, not mine.
I own that.
Very good.
Yeah.
But no, it was really good. I think Scott should be the first of more designers to get on.
Yeah.
There are many out there, typographers, designers we should talk to about the big Billboard work.
Well, I mean, listeners, get in touch, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have we're exhausting your black book at the moment, and we're
there's a couple more in the bottom drawer. But no, it was great. It was great.
Yeah, people should get in touch with us. Talk about the great work you're seeing out there. As we said, we've had a couple in from last week.
Yes.
So do keep showing us your great work and the great work you're seeing out there. A final word of thanks to our sponsor, Talon Outdoor. They've obviously been big supporters of ours and continue to be. So thank you to Talon. Thank you to you, Hugh.
Thank you to you,
for being
Dan.
here on time today.
And thank you to John, but John doesn't seem to ever be around anymore. John. He used to work at Grand Visual.
Oh, John. I haven't seen him for ages.
No. See if we can find him next time.
But next time we'll get him here at least to push the big red button.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, mate.
Thank you. See you next week. Bye.